Thank you so much, ma'am, for this warm introduction and welcome. Let me start with a story. Maya just pressed the buttons of the elevator and she was just going to her office, and that's where her phone just fell. It bounced and just fell from her hand, and whoosh, it just fell into those little spaces वो elevator और floor के बीच में एक आपने notice किया होगा कुछ space होता है, and the phone fell and it just fell, slipped and just fell into those spaces, and Maya was like completely stunned because she realized that it was not just the phone but a phone wallet. It had her driving license, her credit card, and many other important things. So she rushed to the guard. So I just started the story of Maya when she pressed the buttons of the elevator and she was wanting to go to her office, and that's when her phone slipped from her hands, and it just fell into those little spaces between the elevator and the floor. And she realized that it was not just the phone but the phone wallet, and it had the credit card, driving license, and many important things. So Maya quickly rushed to the security guard, Ray. Ray was rather happy to see Maya because Maya was one of those very few people who would always greet the guard. And in fact, Maya was one of those very few people who, typically would remember your birthdays, your anniversary dates, and your favorite food and things alike. Not because Maya was weird, but Maya genuinely liked people. So she told Ray that what had happened, and Ray quickly told her that to get your phone back would cost you a lot of money. And upon listening to this, Maya was sad and she went back to her workstation, and Ray got back to his work. 20 minutes later, Maya got a call from Ray, and Ray told her that. Ray called Maya and told her that, I was looking at the annual maintenance inspection sheet of the elevator, which is due next month. But what I can do is I can prepone that inspection and call those people today itself, which way, because of that, you will get your phone back at absolutely no cost. Now, on the same day, I was also reading an article about a CEO who had always aced in his exams, in his papers, and everywhere, and he was appearing for yet another important exam where he had worked so hard and he was only expecting to ace it again. Until the examiner came and asked him just one question. And that one question was, what is the name of the person who cleans this room? And the CEO failed miserably. Yeah, because he had seen her many times, but he had never stopped and bothered to ask her name. Well, her name was Doddy, and from that day, the CEO made sure that he knew all the Doddys in his life, and he also made sure that everybody around him knew all the Doddys in their lives. Now, with these two stories, what got highlighted is that both Maya as well as the CEO realized that helping and knowing people basically is the most essential thing required to be a leader. And stories are something that helps us to understand and realize what would I do in such a situation, because stories connect. Stories never fail to connect. Stories resonate. Now, what happens in this scenario or the world we are living in? The leaders and the managers somehow are allergic to tell stories. Because sometimes they don't know how to find the stories, right stories, and even if they find right stories, they don't know how to tell them. And this is where we are going to spend next few minutes with all of you, telling you about the importance of story as well as data, and how do these two things work hand in hand. For those of you who still are thinking that whether it's worth sitting here for next 45, 50 minutes because I belong to finance or I belong to IT, I'm not into marketing and sales, because yes, marketing and sales people definitely tell stories. But what is my role? मेरा क्या काम है? मैं तो finance में काम करता हूँ या मैं IT division में हूँ, तो मुझे stories से क्या लेना देना है? So just to keep all of you at rest here is how we define stories. And I want to just now at this moment take you to this little. Okay, there's some technical glitch because of which I'm not able to present the screen, but it's okay. Never mind. So I'll just fix it when we'll be doing some chit chat in between, but never mind. It's not that important because we are here to talk about stories. So don't worry on that. So but what I was suggesting is that Here's how at StoryNack we define stories is stories are basically facts where how we help people is to basically wrap the stories in context and deliver them with emotions. Now the question is, can the stories be made up? Of course they can be made up, but that's not what we do. Somebody might have a question that can the stories be mythological? Of course, yes, they can be mythological. We all know Devdutt, he does such an awesome job with mythological tales, but that's not again what we do. Now, we are not interested in anything but the facts because we work with businesses. And when we say businesses, we work with business storytelling and business stories. And we all know what is the currency of communication in business. Can anybody help me with the answer? What is the currency of communication in any sort of business? Anybody? And Radhika, may I please request everybody to switch on their cameras? Is it too difficult? Yeah, because see the catch is because of COVID, we are anyway not meeting in person. हम लोग वैसे ही एक दूसरे के आमने सामने नहीं हैं, तो हम ये जूम पे लिमिटेड हैं और उस पर आप लोग अपना कैमरा बंद करके बैठ जाएंगे तो मुझे तो पता ही नहीं चलेगा कौन है कहाँ है आप खाना खा रहे हैं या आप कैमरा के पीछे सो गए हैं या आप कहीं चले गए सो मे आई प्लीज रिक्वेस्ट okay fine I mean Abhishek it's okay you can't open the camera but I'm sure everybody else can open the camera can I please request everybody because it'll be nice to see the audience and the participants yeah thank you so much yeah yeah everybody's like combing and getting their hair right and don't worry it's afternoon chilled out 4 o'clock you can be in your pajamas and Zoom anyway allows us to sit through whatever we can eat we can drink our coffee chai whatever wine anything so but it's just it makes me feel as a facilitator थोड़ा फैसिलिटेटर्स को अच्छा लगता है कि चलो एटलीस्ट इन पर्सन नहीं है तो कैमरा पे तो आप देख पा रहे हैं कि आपको कौन सुन रहा है एंड इट्स नॉट अ क्लोज्ड rectangular name. So thank you so much. While I'm waiting for others to open the camera, but so somebody just responded that what is the currency of communication in business is money. No, boss, it can't be money. Can anybody just make a wild guess? What do you think will be the currency of communication in business? Okay, because we have less time and this masterclass is only scheduled for a few minutes. So the currency of communication in any business is facts, right? So that is the importance of facts or what we call data. So if we have to bring the power of stories in business, it has to be around facts and nothing else. So that is what we do at StoryNack. And therefore, in next 45 minutes, at no point we'll be saying कहानियाँ अच्छी हैं stories are good and data is bad or vice versa that stories are bad and data is good but what we are trying to emphasize and in next 40 minutes what we will try to put across to all of you is that storytelling and data analysis or data alone should not be looked upon as either or but it should be looked upon as and which means that when you like I said that when you wrap the stories with context or when you wrap the facts with context, then it connects you the information differently. Now, to understand this, that how it happens, we all need to understand what happens to our brains when we look at data or when we listen to the stories. Let's look at what happened to us when we listen to the stories. Now, just give me a quick second here because I need to fix my slide. Just give me a quick second. Now, this is what we said that stories are facts wrapped in context and delivered with emotions. Now, before we, so I was just talking about what happens to us when we look at, when we listen to the stories. Now, if you look at this slide, don't get confused by the.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So, like I said, that don't really get bogged down by the text written there, but just if you can see the brain part of it. So whenever we are listening to a story, what happens typically is that our entire brain starts to light up. Each of the brain lobe gets lightened up. Our senses and emotions get engaged. I mean, just to give you an example, remember when I was telling you the story about Maya, that how her phone fell, and that is when your temporal lobe of the brain got lightened up, and you could actually see the phone falling with a thud sound or with any sound particularly. Now, neurologists and neuroscientists have also coined a term that's called neurocoupling, that says that our brain lightens up exactly in line with that of a storyteller. So much so that we end up experiencing what storyteller is telling. Now, what happens as a result of that is the storyteller starts giving us the artificial reality. Imagine if I tell you something like that I was walking through the snow, and with each step, the snow is crunching under my shoe and the snowflakes were rubbing through my cheek. I'm building up this imagery, and because it's a story, your brain is now lightening up and neurocoupling is happening. You will start to feel as if you are walking through the snow and the snow is touching you. It's exactly like if I give you another corollary that when you're watching an action movie, जब आप एक action movie देख रहे होते हैं, your heart starts to race as if you are a part of that activity. And again, it's the same thing, which is neurocoupling that is happening, that's lighting up the brain, and you start to feel that you're a part of that activity. And as you listen up to the story, you automatically gain empathy for the storyteller. The more is the empathy, the more of oxytocin is released. Oxytocin, हम में से कुछ लोगों ने सुना होगा, इट्स अ फील गुड केमिकल, और न्यूरोलॉजिकली इसको हैप्पी हार्मोन भी बोलते हैं. So the more of oxytocin means that it makes you feel more trustworthy towards the speaker. Therefore, storytelling becomes such a critical skill, especially for leaders, because it does two things. A, it makes the speaker, who's the leader in this case, more trustworthy. And B, it also makes the leader more accepting, that you start to accept what the leader is saying. And therefore, as you listen up to the stories, there is what happens because of neurocoupling, and so it has some sort of scientific connect, and that's what this slide typically showed. My next slide is also something similar to this only, but you can just focus on the next thing that I'm going to talk about is what happens to our brain when we listen up to the data. Now, there are some misconceptions which we need to understand, that what happens when we look at the data. The first is that data doesn't change our behavior or emotions. If data were to change our behavior, just imagine we will all sleep for 8 hours, we'll drink 8 to 10 glasses of water, we'll do 45 minutes of exercise every day, every day of the week, and we'll do flossing, cleaning, everything together, if that is how we would be deciding. But that's actually not how we decide or choose our life. Neuroscientists have studied decision making, and they have realized and figured out that it happens at a subconscious level, in a small pea sized part of the brain, and that's called amygdala. Don't worry, you don't have to really get confused. आपको ये words और इन सब से confuse होने की जरूरत नहीं है. But because हम एक master class कर रहे हैं, तो मुझे लगा कि मुझे ये basics आपको बताने बहुत ज़रूरी हैं story telling और data के. So कहीं पे भी अगर confusion है तो आप note down कर सकते हैं. We'll have enough time to answer all your questions towards the end. Now, what happens is that when we make choices, either to pursue happiness or to avoid risk, or before we become aware of it, when we come to conscious level, we start to apply realization and logics, which is why we think that we have made a very rational based decision without realizing that the decision had actually been made at a subconscious level. To prove this, neuroscientists actually did an experiment. They actually damaged amygdala part of some of very successful people, and they realized that the decision making became very difficult for them, so much so that they were not able to make simple decisions of, do I go this way or do I go that way. They were extremely successful before this. Their amygdala was damaged, and after that their career became jinxed. Their projects were not being finished because they were really not able to decide. And all this was happening because they were not able to experience emotions. And that's the reason they were not able to decide. So, data doesn't evoke emotions, and therefore, data doesn't allow us to decide. Second misconception with data is that data never speaks for itself. Now, for this, let me take you to this slide. And my question to the participants here is that which part of the pie do you think is more than the other part? Which pie share of the pie is maximum? Let me put it like this. कौन से रंग का जो पाए है आपको लग रहा है कि सबसे ज्यादा है? Can people please mute and give me some answers?
It seems all equal.
Sorry?
It seems all equal, but the blue is lighter, higher than the other colors.
Blue is slightly higher than the others, and otherwise you feel that substance
Slide,
is the
yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's
Thanks,
equal.
Mansi. Thanks. Anybody else? Anybody else? There are no right or wrong answers. जहाँ पे कहानियाँ होती हैं वहाँ right or wrong answers नहीं होता है, तो आप बेहिचक बिंदास unmute करके
It's same for everyone.
Gaurav also feels that it's same. Okay. Okay. Anybody else has a different opinion? So I only have two people who have answered, but can anybody also just say whether they find it to be same for all? और किसी को लगता है कि नीला ज़्यादा है या पर्पल ज़्यादा है या ग्रीन या ऑरेंज, किसी को ऐसा लगता हो?
All are okay. All are same.
All are same. So, okay, we have now a couple of more people coming in and saying all are same. Okay, when I projected the same data in the form of bar chart, this is what I get. Confusing, strange, and shocking. But that is what data does. That is what data does. So, because data never speaks for itself in isolation. What happens is our brain loves to anticipate and look at the data in its own way. We try to fill the gap between what we see and what we hear without our knowledge and experience, and therefore it's always biased, which means that my understanding of data will always be different from what your understanding would be, because we are all going to have interpretation of our own, because that's how our brain is wired and tuned to look at the data and infer the data in this way. It's exactly what happened, that there was no context to the data, and when the context was in the pie chart, it was saying something else, but the same thing became completely different when it came to another pictorial or visualization form. So we all have our own interpretations unless there is no way to guide us. Can I ask everybody to be on mute, please? Now, once again, I'm not saying that stories are good or data is bad. So, how is it that stories work when hard data doesn't? You know, for 14, 15 years, before becoming a storyteller 8 years ago, I was working through various corporates, FMCG, consumer durables, IT. All the corporates taught me just one thing, that it's only data and analysis that works in corporates. So whenever you're meeting somebody or whenever you're presenting, aap data present kijiye and that's it. And if you fail, then go back to your workstation, collect more data, come back with more data and present that one. But after becoming a storyteller, 7 to 8 years ago, we realized that it's not how it works. It's not that bringing a different set of data will change the scenario, will change the thoughts or perceptions or inferences, but it is about that it's the story that makes the data looks different, which means that when someone disagrees to a data, it's not because of any other thing, but it's because they have a different story with respect to the data. And the point, therefore, is that we cannot fight a story with facts. We can only replace it with a more powerful story. Another example to give, कभी भी आप मीटिंग में जाते हैं, आप लोग अक्सर कॉर्पोरेट के लोग हैं, आप मीटिंग्स में जाते हैं, नॉट रियली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट मीटिंग, कहीं जहाँ सीनियर मैनेजमेंट नहीं है, आपकी बेसिक मीटिंग है, तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम यू वुड हैव सीन कि आप you start to look at your Facebook feed while the presenter is presenting, and your heads would be down and everybody would be in the Facebook feed because the data is being presented and you're really not interested in that. But the moment speaker stops and says that 3 years ago, and suddenly from the Facebook feed your heads are up, because your brain is wired and tuned and knows that okay, there is a story coming up, I need to know what's the story he or she's going to tell. And obviously if the story is not interesting, it's not wrapped around the facts, then you again go back to your Facebook feed. But the moment the word story comes in, your brain gets all the attention, and you just get to that. Now, the point here, what I'm trying to emphasize is that data and storytelling should not be looked upon as either or, but should be looked upon as and. They work together as a very, very powerful tool. But to see and to understand what makes a good story, we also go back to the age old thing, that what is the context of the story that we are building around the facts, which means that what is the setting, who's involved, and who should be here, or why should I even be here. The second thing is what is the conflict in that story around the facts, which means that what is that moment that is going to change everything. The third is that what is the outcome that which goes on to say that where is it different and what is the takeaway from that story. Now, coming back to what story does, not neurologically, but otherwise also, a good story has three attributes that really hits us hard. Is that first is it builds and releases the tension, which means that a good story will always give us that intriguing feeling that oh, where is the story going? What's going to happen next? And it keeps our attention going, and it also releases it by sharing something unexpected, and does this over and over throughout the story. A great story also builds an idea. In fact, it helps us to see that you no longer unsee, leaving you changed, because we agree that stories do leave us changed. In fact, it has been proven many times. The third thing that a story does is that a great story communicates value. Stanford has done a research that has proven that if you want to build organizational values, it can be only done through storytelling, because it teaches us what we value and hence we encourage. Now, to build this, what I just said, that storytelling and data analysis or data goes hand in hand, and they should be looked upon as and not either or. I'm going to tell you another story where the data was mixed and wrapped with stories and was delivered with emotions, and that's how it worked. And the story goes like this, that there was this college advisor, Mariana. She was asked to present to her university leadership, and when she looked upon the data, it suggested that a large population of students with autism were not graduating. She actually went to some storytellers and story coaches. This is a story from Boston. And she went to the story coaches, and the story coaches, she told the story coaches that leaders are telling her that just present the data the way you see. But she feels that the university leaders already have the data. So, what is the point presenting the same data again? My job should be to help them how to connect with that data. So, the story coach choose to, tell her that why don't you tell a story before presenting the data? Why don't you just cull out a story? And then when they sat with Mariana, they decided to tell the story of another girl called Michelle. Now, Michelle was an A student, which meant that, she was passing with all the A grades till she got into the university. And that was her dream university, where she, was very, very willing to pass through this university with all the flying colors and all the aces. And she was an autist. She was worried that how she's going to navigate through all the challenges or the changes they were prevalent in the university. And her fears became worst when one day she received a call from the HR advisor. An HR advisor simply just called her and asked a very basic question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what are your career aspirations? Now, questions like these are very normal for an HR advisor to ask their university undergraduates, but they can be hard for anybody who was just entered. जो अभी यूनिवर्सिटी में आप आए ही हैं, तो आपके लिए क्वेश्चंस काफ़ी मुश्किल हो सकते हैं. And imagine the questions for somebody who was suffering from autism. That is one. And second, to ask these questions verbally, they were paralyzing for Michelle. At that point in time, Michelle had an option to withdraw from the university, go back to her parents, and just give up. But instead, she chose to call up the HR advisor, and she took this courageous step. She actually called the HR guy and told him that I am an autist. That anyway was the first courageous step because of the stigma attached to it. So she actually mentioned this to the HR head and told him politely that if you could send me the questions in writing form so that I could reply and respond in the similar fashion, it will be very, very easier for me. And just these two courageous steps changed Michelle's life, because after that, she passed all her exams with all aces. Now, when Mariana looked at the data, the college advisor, she looked at more and more data, and she realized that less than 20% of autist students were not, were able to graduate only. So it was not that they were not able to handle the university pressures or the way university was throwing challenges on them, but because the way they were unable to navigate the challenges in which the university was operating. Especially the advisors and the HR heads, they should have control on, which means that the whole passion and purpose of the advisors should have been to help people be their best and be successful, but it was hardly helping them. And not everybody would be as strong and courageous as Michelle. So instead of applying this, what you say, one size fits all, it was not helping people. In fact, it was putting them into the crap. And this is what Mariana presented as a story to her board. And the story was that of Michelle. And in the end, she said, I could find a Michelle because she's my own daughter. And the moment she said this, the jaws dropped. The entire leadership was awestruck. And that is where Mariana achieved it. She did not present the data. She just connected the leaders, the entire board, to the data through a very, very heartwarming and realistic story. That's where, if you remember the definition, that she presented the data, wrapped it with the context, and presented and delivered it with emotion of her own daughter, who was Michelle. She helped them see something that they can't unsee. That is exactly what she did. She used the power of stories to actually do this. She couldn't have done this with data alone, that if she had presented the data, which was already there with the leaders. But the problem is that they always had the data and they could not overlook the data, the same data this time, because it was wrapped with a story and it was presented with emotion. Now, that is the power of stories or storytelling when we look at the data. When they come together, it helps build ideas to see things, like I'm repetitively saying, that what we can't see. It also helps us to communicate what's valued. It helps us to tap on our amygdala, which is the emotional epicenter, and therefore helps us to decide. So as leaders, what we at StoryNack feel, that we don't wait for the perfect stories. We pick up our stories and we make them perfect and share them with the audience. Now, what we have discussed till now is that why part of it, which means that why storytelling and data should be considered as and not either or, and what does it do when we mix data and stories. My next portion of the presentation is how part of it. You must be wondering कि अभी ये पता चल गया है कि क्या करना है और क्यों करना है, क्योंकि किसी भी कॉन्वर्जेशन का मेन मकसद जो होता है वो हमारे को ये जानना होता है कि हम क्या करें और क्यों करें, और फिर अगर हम उससे कन्विंस्ड हैं तो हम कैसे करें, which means that the what part of it, why part of it, and how part of it. So we have briefly touched on the what and why of it. Now next 10 to 15 minutes is when we will speak, what we'll speak about is how part of it. Again, I'm going to explain you this how part also with the help of an example. I'm assuming that my participants and my audience here knows the basics of story structure, that how does the story look like. My question here is that can we tell stories with data or with numbers exactly like how we tell with words? हम इंग्लिश में स्टोरी राइटिंग करते हैं, स्टोरी सुनाते हैं, सुनते हैं, तो वो वर्ड्स में लिखी जाती हैं, बट क्या हम वही स्टोरी स्ट्रक्चर यूज़ करके डेटा के नंबर्स को लेकर स्टोरी बना सकते हैं, यूजिंग द सेम स्ट्रक्चर विच विल हैव context, which will have conflict, which will have emotions, which will have surprises, and finally which will have a resolution. Now, yes, it's possible, and that's exactly what we do at StoryNack at length. And that's exactly what we will be teaching in our sessions when the participants join us for the sessions with AMA for 3 days. That is exactly what we'll be teaching them at length, how part of it, that how do you really convert data into stories to make it look more powerful. But today, because we have like 5 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes max, is where I'll share with you one example. And this example is that of a person way back in 2000. His name was Andrew Moofield. He actually was a London-based guy, and he ran small businesses. And it was more like a startup. So as happens with a startup, that the cash flow is not that much, or it's not enough to meet for his payroll. he had a set of 25 employees in his startup. So what happened is he had a situation that his cash flow was less and he was not able to pay to the employees. And what would many people in this situation do is that they would decide what to do, and then they will inform the employees of the decision. Any startup CEO or any founder of a startup would do this, that you would take the data, you would just inform the employees that this is what is not possible, and that's it. But this is not what this CEO did. He chose to present data, not as data but as story. Now, I'm going to be telling you this exactly verbatim what he did. What he did was that he called these 25 employees in a conference room, and he just wrote a number on the whiteboard, assuming that number was A, and he said that this was our bank balance at the beginning of the month. Under that number A, he wrote many 2-3 numbers, and he said that these are the revenues we expected to get this month, and these are the expenses. ये हमारे revenues थे, हमारे खर्चे हुए, और फिर उसने एक line खींच दी नीचे और एक छोटा सा X number दिखा. And that X number, he said, was what was left at the end of the month. सारे खर्चे देने के बाद, सब इकट्ठा करने के बाद नेट अर्निंग जो आ गई वो एक स्मॉल x की फॉर्म में उसने लिख दी कि ये हमारे पास अब पैसा बचा है. उसी x के बाजू में उसने एक बड़ा सा x बना दिया और बोला कि ये जो है, this is how much your monthly salaries add up to. He circled that big X and he said that this is how much your monthly salaries add up to, and this small x is basically what we are left with at the end of the month. That is where he actually took a pause and he told the audience, he told all his 25 employees that now you can see that the bigger X is actually 3 times more than the smaller x, which means we are clearly deficient. This is where he asked one simple question to all his employees and asked them, what do you think should we do? And with this question, he left them and he said, I'll be back in 15 minutes after having my coffee. So why don't you all discuss? And when he came back after deliberation and surprising and humbling answers he got from his team, he was stunned. The answer that his team presented to him was that 2/3 of them volunteered that they would go back without any pay. 2/3 of the employees said, we'll not take the pay, whereas 1/3 can be paid fully. And these 2/3 who opted out that they will not take salary were all young ones. And they actually gave in 1/3 were the ones who were with the family, who had children, because they realized that people with family would have EMIs, school fees, children expenditure, and that's why the youngsters decided that 1/3 of the salary, 1/3 of the employees should be paid fully, and balance can be paid next month. Now, this was very surprising for Andrew, the CEO. Now, let's look at how the CEO turned this basic data or basic numbers into a powerful story and got helped. Firstly, notice how the CEO walked the audience through each number, from talking about the bank account, the balance in the beginning and the balance at the end, the revenues, the expenses. It actually exactly worked like the context of a story. If you go back to your childhood and if you remember the story structure, there is a beginning to it, there's a middle to it, and there is an end to it, which we call a plot of a story. So if you remember the BME part of a story structure, that a story will always have a beginning, story will always have a middle, and story will always have an end. It's exactly what Andrew did. He created this context at the beginning, threw some challenges in the middle and conflict in the middle, and then a resolution or an end, a resolution towards or result towards the end. So this was the first basic thing that he cracked. Secondly, if you heard the story carefully, there was an element of surprise when he revealed that the bigger circle number, the bigger X that he drew, was 3 times bigger than the smaller X. That was an element of surprise that he threw on the employees. And another bigger surprise was when he came back after the coffee break and the employees telling him that 1/3 ko pura salary de do or 2/3 abhi next month salary lenge. So that part was the surprise element part or the conflict part of the story. That is a very important. जहाँ conflict नहीं है, जहाँ surprise नहीं है, वहाँ story नहीं है. The third thing is that there was a lot of emotional drama involved in it. The entire plot of the story that CEO presented had a lot of emotional drama. The way he took the pauses, the way he drew two X's, a bigger X and a smaller X, it had all the emotional outbursts that a story would need. Fourthly, he also used a very powerful literacy device in stories, what we call as show, not tell. So he showed them the cash flow. He did not hide anything from the employees. In fact, he started with showing them the bank balance at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month. He talked about the cash flow and then he threw it on the employees. He actually let them figure out, उनको decide करने दिया उसने कि आप बताओ कि ये problem है, ये conflict है मेरी कहानी में, इसका end क्या होना चाहिए, ये problem को आप as protagonist कैसे सॉल्व करेंगे. तो उसने अपने 25 एम्प्लॉयज़ को स्टोरी का कैरेक्टर बना दिया और प्रोटैगनिस्ट बना दिया, मेन कैरेक्टर, कि आप इस कहानी को सॉल्व करेंगे, आप इस कहानी का रेजोल्यूशन डिफाइन करेंगे, इसका सोल्यूशन डिफाइन करेंगे. नाउ if Andrew, the CEO, had not used this as a story, or if he had not presented the data as story, he could have simply told the audience that, we are really short of cash this month, and I think I'm only be able to pay 1/3 of the payroll. But he chose not to do it, because in that case he would have lost people, he would have lost the trust, he would have lost the authenticity and credibility of him as the CEO. Instead, when he chose an effective way of communicating the data, and that was through story, he really won. And that's what happens as exactly when we say that stories and data go hand in hand in terms of when you wrap it with context and when you wrap it and you deliver it with emotion. Okay, I have a lot of silence. Okay, let me just go to one more slide and then we see how much have you understood. It's a very simple, you can see these three entangled circles where you have the story, the visual, and the data. Now, if you look at the three, they are just entangling, and that's why they are interconnected with each other. Now, what happens is that a simple way of remembering or understanding this is that, when we look at data and when we look at stories, clearly I have explained and you must have understood that data is not as memorable as story. In fact, when we look at data, वो हमें 5 से 10% याद रहता है. But कहानियाँ जब हम सुनते हैं तो 60 to 70% याद रहती हैं. Ask yourself after this presentation ends कि जो आपने नर्सरी में कहानी सुनी थी वो आपको आज भी याद है, या आपकी जो दादी और नानी आपको कहानियाँ सुनाती थी जिसमें इतने फैक्ट्स भी नहीं होते थे, वो फिर भी आपको आज की डेट तक में भी याद है. बट आपने कल जो ऑफिस में डेटा देखा वो शायद आप भूल चुके हैं, वो आपको याद नहीं रहेगा. So that's where what happens, that data is not as memorable alone if data is just presented alone in isolation. Stories help to engage the audience, that we have seen through emotions. They build connection and empathy. Like I said, the neurocoupling happens and therefore oxytocin is released, and therefore ultimately open up the audience to change. And that's exactly what the objective of presenting any type of data is. Now, what happens is when we say that data and story, when they come together, data or narrative, you can even call it narrative or you can call it story. So when data and narrative or story come together, they explain, because they provide. The narrative helps to provide the context, and therefore it explains the audience more that what is it data, what is it trying to do, and why is this data important. बिना स्टोरी के, बिना कहानी के डेटा ये एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पाता है. That's why you see that little explain word between story and data. When you look at data and visuals, when you look at data and visual, it happens to enlighten. Now, data alone again will not enlighten anything, but when you present it with a visual, when you present it with visualization, it helps us to give that aha moment. It helps us to give us that wow moment, and therefore it enlightens us. And that's what happened when you saw those pie chart and the bar graph. It enlightened that, oh my God, the context can make things look so different. In a pie chart, we all felt कि ये तो same है, but वही graph जब हमने bar में बनाया तो वो बिल्कुल ही opposite result था. So that was an aha moment. Thirdly, when you present stories and visuals, you get engaged. Now, what happens as a part of when you mixed stories with visuals or illustrations, then there is a clear and concise communication that happens along, with the audience that also allows you to engage and draw the audience attention. Now, this little diagram is the crux of our 3 day presentation when we meet you all during
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect.
So the objective of this whole 3 day session will be to tell you the how part of it, more and more of how, so that you can do it yourself. Because I understand that you all work with data. Like I said, that 15 years of my corporate experience, I have only worked with data, and I have been taught by the world leaders and the CEOs that just present data. But over last 8 years, we have learned that data alone will not do what data can do with storytelling. Now, this is where I would like to end my talk with talk on the presentation part of it. But before we get to the questions, I'm going to invite. First, I'm going to stop share. I'll be inviting my co-founder, who also happens to be my spouse. That's Anshul Kunhani. Oh, there he is. And basically, before we close and before we open the stage to questions, I want Anshul to give us an expertise or an expert opinion on two very important questions on how data works and how data and storytelling together work. So, thank you so much, Anshul, for coming in with me here. So, if you can tell us how important or how do you measure the ROI of business storytelling when you take data and stories hand in hand? And I know that we have been working with many corporates over last almost a decade. So, if you can just share very briefly with the audience here that how is it that we measure ROI in business storytelling? Yeah.
So, Sonia, thank you for this great session. I think people will have questions, but it's a good question that you're picking up right now. And you and whole situation is that this question definitely pops up. So how I play it is that I take a Granny's whispers with them. So I would pick up about 10 to 15 people, divide them in two groups, and to one group, I would actually give them the strategy note of the organization, a small part of the strategy note. And the second group, I would hand out a storified strategy. And I would ask them to play Chinese whisper with each other. So how it pans out is that when one looks at the way they narrate, and when you reach the end of the line in the relay for strategy, the note itself, you end up having a very different interpretation. You will as expected. But when you look at the other part, which has a storified strategy, it reaches to the end and the interpretation kind of remains fixed, but there is a small kind of deterioration which definitely happens. But all in all, the interpretation is pretty clear. The relevance is pretty neat. So on top of the front, you would actually see the relevance directly. On a serious front, business stories are actually not. And further, one most important point is that it's retollable. So that means when you tell a story, told, and that's where the power of stories is. That if you have a strategy or if you have an organization in total, then you would have a whole workforce who would talk about that in one voice, one interpreted version, and they will also make sure that it is communicated further because it's a story.
Well said. No, that's well said, Anshul. Thank you so much. My next question, before we open to the audience for questions, is that how do you handle failure stories in business, or are they of any importance? Are the failure stories of any importance?
Yes. Yes. Perhaps a great question here. I think Sonia, you need to mute. Yes. A great question here for everybody's benefit. And this is one of my favorite ones, especially when the session is about data storytelling. Normally, the corporate DNA is set in such a way that people only talk about the successes. They will talk about the success stories. It talks about things of how things worked for them. But they shy away from talking failure stories. And it's the DNA, it's the corporate DNA. But I must tell you, perhaps failure stories, according to me, is one of the most powerful story structures that exist. And why I say that if you are a leader and you are confident and you are a confident leader across a group, and you're a team lead or you're a manager, but you have enough confidence of what you're doing and you have enough know-how of what work you're doing, then in that case, you're talking about your struggles. You should not shy away from not work. You should not shy away from the point that, okay, in the whole process, I chanced upon this. And that's the aha moment you bring out. So when you look at the structure of data, you look at the structure of visualization, and then you had story to wholesomely create a data story. And there are multiple data story structures that we teach you. In that format, if you were to include a failure story, I can assure you it works best. And it works best for two reasons. One, it establishes a respect for you as a lead, be a leader or a manager or someone who is leading a project. And at the same time, it motivates and inspires all the others who heard that story to pick up challenges, to pick up the projects that you really want them to, and not have a fear of failure. Because fear of failure is one which restricts learning. And we all know, I think it's a known fact to everyone here that failures is the only way you learn. So for me, failure stories is in fact one important pivot across businesses.
Thank you so much, Anshul, for taking these two important questions, which I thought that I must ask you before we open the stage to audience. So, Radhika, this is what we thought that we will share briefly and give a basic flavor of what is in store for all the audience here for if they want to come in for the 3 days course, that we'll talk about what part of it and why part of it and how part of it. So after attending the 3 day workshop with us, they'll go handy and quite equipped with respect to how they can really present data in a more fruitful manner. Thank you so much, Radhika. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Anshul sir, for your time.